You're welcome to the CC Podcast, a platform that brings you expert analysis on key development issues in Africa. I am Ave Michael, your host, and on this episode, we are joined with two of our researchers, Sixtus Onyekwere and Chisom Udora. Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, one that I'm very sure a lot of people have not heard about or have little or no knowledge, but we're happy to shed more light on this topic. So we're going to dive right in, and I'm going to start with Mr. Sixtus. What is the fraud triangle?
Okay, thank you, Avi. I'll keep it simple and realistic as possible.
All right.
Okay. Now, the fraud triangle, it's a framework that helps anyone at all to understand the reason why people indulge in corrupt activities, right? So the fraud triangle sets out three conditions, right? That if these three conditions are met, anyone will be corrupt, right? I know that sounds far-fetched because some people will say, I can never be corrupt, and all those kind of things.
Are you corrupt?
Now, so if these three conditions are right, you never can say, You
might just
Now,
dabble.
let me just explain the three conditions. You will see reason with it, right? Now, the first one is opportunity,
Okay.
right? If you have the opportunity to commit the act, right? That is one. And again, if you're facing a financial burden, especially if it's something sensitive that you cannot easily ask for help, right? Now, that's the second condition, right? And thirdly, if there is a reason that you can rationalize it, right? Something to justify the act.
reason why.
Exactly. So if these three conditions are in place, it is difficult to stop anyone from being corrupt.
Wow.
I mean, that's theory. It has been developed a long time ago by Donald Cresci, and is tested and proven.
Wow, that's very interesting. So I think with these few points of yours is to start asking, am I corrupt? You said opportunity, you said pressure and rationalization. So you ask yourself right now, am I corrupt? So I would want to know, Chisom, why now? Why Nigeria? Why the fraud triangle now in this time, and why Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. So if you read the paper, you'll see where we made mention of the three-pronged approach that was used in Hong Kong. They tackled corruption or fraud with the human approach, internalizing controls, strengthening the institutions and the agencies. If you look at Nigeria, we only have the agencies where we have EFCC, SARS, DSS, all those things. We focus on agencies. We are leaving the human approach. Human approach has to do with the sensitization, awareness. Then strengthening the institutions have to do with digitalization. So let's digitalize all the government processes. The average Nigerian government institution doesn't have a functioning website, not to talk of when you now want to make payments. So if we can channel this approach, we can make it work in Nigeria. So, and by human approach, sensitization, all those things, so that they will cut down the justification. If you look at the fraud triangle, the reasons why they should be fraudulent. So they will always, like today, the minimum wage is 30,000. If you're looking at the present day as we're calculating, 30,000 is $29 for a month. So this is tackling this issue. So imagine that a family has to fend for themselves with $29 a month. Why won't, if they see an opportunity to do something, they will obviously grab it. So always sensitizing the people on the need to do well and the need to, and while you're sensitizing, you also be giving, you can't just talk. Put in actions. Maybe work from home, try and reduce costs for the people generally.
So alternatives.
Yes, alternatives. Thank you.
Okay, yes. All right, so I would want to deviate a little bit just out of curiosity, and I'm very sure a lot of our listeners would want to know, in the ranking of corrupt countries, what number is Nigeria on that rank?
In order to make it make sense, right? Let me do a comparison.
All right.
So, for instance, she mentioned the Hong Kong case, right? They used the fraud triangle to, fight corruption that was really, really endemic. Presently, Hong Kong is at 12th, right? 12th position, right?
Yeah.
Nigeria is at 150. The highest is 180.
Ooh.
Right? So if you can imagine the gap of how corrupt we are in comparison to Hong Kong, 12th, 150. So that can give you an idea
we have a long way to
of
go.
the present state.
Well, that's quite eye-opening, but that's why we're here to speak on how we can move in the right direction, and that's why we're addressing and just shedding more light on the fraud triangle. So, Chisom, I'm coming back to you. Is this actually doable in Nigeria? Is this doable, and how can we go about it?
Thank you. It's doable if we are ready to work. It requires all hands on deck. So not only the government working, but us as individuals doing our own part. So now, if the government now has focused mainly on law enforcement. So let's balance out all these approaches, strengthen the internal institutions, then the judicial systems. If there are consequences for situations or crimes committed, people would not want to dabble into such crimes, knowing fully well that their actions. But in our Nigerian society now, we know that there are little or no consequences to crimes that are committed. So if our judicial system is strengthened, then people will kind of take it serious, not to do some things. But there are some situations, if I have to steal money and then I roger a lot of people I know that are meant to hold me accountable and they sweep it under the carpet, then how is he going to eliminate that crime? But if I know that I steal this money and everybody's going to just throw me under the bus for doing it and say, okay, you face the judicial system squarely, then I will sit up and not do it. So the government is playing their part. You as a human being, you're playing your part. Whether it means having a personal look, or if you see your neighbor doing what is wrong, you're willing to actually take it up. And while you're taking it up, let the judicial system actually do its course.
Okay. Yes, I like that you have highlighted that this is, because I was actually going to ask that next, that this is an individual as much as it's a joint effort. We all have to make up our minds to see the problem and also work towards just making changes. So it is comforting to know that this is doable. And I think the next question, or the next right question would be, is this fraud triangle working in Nigeria? Are people in power aware of this framework? Because like I said, a lot of people are just getting to hear about this. Is this something that is already in the works? Is this something that is already being implemented, or steps are being taken towards that, Sixtus?
Okay, now, funny thing is, before I embarked on this journey of developing the framework, the first thing I did was to check existing corruption fighting framework in Nigeria, right? And what I saw was that everything was heavily tilted towards law enforcement. And that law enforcement is just a segment. We have three things that lead to corruption, right? Pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. That law enforcement is only tilted or can only address things around opportunity. You still have pressure, you have rationalization, they are there. So unless you address the three, you cannot. So it's a systems approach, right? You cannot solve one thing and you expect that you solve the problem. You have to approach the three, right? So in Nigeria, we are not using that systems approach. They are just focusing only on law enforcement.
Great. Thank you very much, Sixtus. It's quite comforting to know that our leaders are aware of this fraud triangle, and hopefully it would help in the right direction to reducing or bringing us down from the scale that we are on in the ranking of corrupt countries. So, Chisom, I'm going to go back to you. Will this approach work in Nigeria? Okay, so I'm going to go back to Chisom now. So Sixtus has told us already that our leaders are aware, and this is something that is in the works. But I think I'm just curious, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners would know, is this not contradicting? Because you mentioned minimum wage,
Yeah.
right? If we're going to use all these steps, won't it almost come like a sudden shock and then maybe probably up the crime rates? Or just would want to know, is there a way this can be cushioned? Is there a way we can implement this and it can be cushioned in a way that it will not affect our citizens as much? We all know the situation in the country right now with the fuel subsidy. So how is this something that, since it's doable and since it's something that would definitely help the country, how can we implement it and still cushion what would almost seem like the hardships that come alongside?
Yeah, thank you. So a good administrator knows to have policies in place that will cushion effect of any decisions they make. For instance, you mentioned this fuel subsidy removal. Yes, everybody is going, even the richest is going through it currently. So high cost of living and everything, it's not contradictory if it is planned appropriately and carried out well. And if we remove sentiments, because Nigeria is a highly sentimental community. So the high cost of living, we can't go and tell market women what to sell their produce for, but we can increase our minimum wage. Okay. We can find ways to lessen the burden of what the average Nigerian is going through. Like I said before, digitalizing the process. In this day and time, I don't need to go to the offices to do some things that I can stay on my system or my phone and do, and I will get it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this policy should be made to cushion the effects. And then when we talked about digital internalizing, strengthening the internal controls, where we said digitalization should be introduced. So this digitalization helps to reduce the fraud, bureaucracy, nepotism in the system. And when you tighten this loose, its corruption will reduce. But imagine I come and say I'm doing strengthening law enforcement, human approach, and I leave this sector without doing anything on it. What will happen is that I will catch the thief, another person will go and commit. I will catch the person, another person will go and commit. So while you're strengthening all these approaches, also tighten those ends so that people won't have a reason, because there will always be a reason why someone will want to justify his acts.
Yeah, so sorry to just, come in here. So are you saying that this approach might be somewhat limited?
Not necessarily limited. Like I said, if we can remove sentiments aside, because there will always be
a reason.
There will always be a reason. And then we will now have to do, she's just a widow, he's just an orphan, he's just you're an adult, you know what you were doing, you thought it through. I know lawyers will say it was premeditated. So you thought it through. So you should receive the consequences. So that next time, you're hungry, yes, but there are other ways to go about it.
Yeah. So I think in this case, ignorance is not bliss.
No, definitely. Ignorance. For a child, maybe, but even children do know what they're doing at times. So
yes, that's quite interesting. From the moment I heard about the fraud triangle, I have always seen it as a very interesting topic. And we do have a publication on our website, so you can get more information on the fraud triangle and just keep yourself abreast. Thank you so much, Chisom. Thank you so much, Sixtus, for enlightening us and just letting us know what the fraud triangle is. I really do hope we realize that this is not just a joint effort, this is also an individual effort. You have to make up your mind so it would seem like a joint effort. Thank you so much for also listening. To all our viewers, please do subscribe, do share, and do like. Thank you. Have a lovely day.